Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, night, depending on where you are in the world. This is Gloria White, and I am coming to you from Utah, USA. I'm going to continue my Bible study with you, starting in the book of Ezekiel in the King James Holy Bible, in chapter 29. In the 10th year, in the 10th month, in the 12th day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him, and against all Egypt. Speak and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of thy rivers, which hath said, My river is mine own, and I have made it for myself. The great river Nile. But I will put hooks in thy jaws, and I will cause the fish of thy rivers to stick unto thy scales, and I will bring thee up out of the midst of thy rivers, and all the fish of thy rivers shall stick unto thy scales. And I will leave thee thrown into the wilderness, thee and all the fish of thy rivers, and thou shalt upon the open fields, thou shalt fall. Thou shalt not be brought together, nor gathered. I have given thee for meat to the beast of the field and to the fowls of heaven. He's talking about the Pharaoh of Egypt. Remember, when he brought the children of Israel out from Egypt, the thing that they did that displeased God after he did all those miracles and wonders and brought them out of Egypt, the children of Israel brought with them idols from Egypt. Now, in the last couple of chapters, we saw where God punished Israel for continuing to fall down and worship the false idols that she brought with her from Egypt. Okay? And then when he had brought her down to her knees, he protected her still from the devil, from Satan, when he took out Tyrus, and he used the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, to do that. But Nebuchadnezzar was never paid for doing God's will. He didn't receive any riches for doing that. So God is going to take care of Nebuchadnezzar and his soldiers. But he's also going to topple Egypt. So, this is what's going on. So I'm going to start over here, since I had explained that. Chapter 29. In the 10th year, in the 10th month, in the 12th day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, which is God speaking to Ezekiel his prophet, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him, and against all Egypt. Speak and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which hath said, My river is mine own, and I have made it for myself. But I will put hooks in thy jaws, and I will cause the fish of thy rivers to stick unto thy scales. And I will bring thee up out of the midst of thy rivers, and all the fish of the rivers shall stick unto thy scales. Now, when they use the word dragon here, is it possibly serpent? Aha. And the scales of the serpent. like a snake has the scales on their skin. But he's going to put his hooks in that dragon and pull him up out of the river, and all the fish in the river are going to stick to his scales. Well, these are all the people that are going to stick with this dragon that have made their pact with him, with Pharaoh. So these are all like analogies of, or I want to say parables. It's similes. He says that the dragon, and that's like Pharaoh, and the fishes are all the people with him, in his might, in the might of the land is in the river. So, and I will leave thee thrown into the wilderness, thee and all the fish of thy rivers. Thou shalt fall upon the open fields. Thou shalt not be brought together, nor gathered. I have given thee for meat to the beasts of the fields, and to the fowls of the heaven. And all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am the Lord, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. Now, if you look at this, a staff of reed to Israel, we want to go look at, let's see. Ezekiel 32. No, that's not going to be it. Hold on. It's going to be Isaiah. Hold on a second, folks. I have these marked here. If I can remember. I should have wrote down what I was marking, huh? Where was I? The staff. Oh, Isaiah 36:6. Yeah. Okay. So in Isaiah 36:6 it says, Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all that trust in him. In other words, it's a reed, like by the rivers. If you cut off a reed, it's very sharp, and if you tried to lean on it or brace yourself against it, you would run it through your hand. It would poke through your hand, and that's what he's saying about leaning on his staff, leaning on Egypt, and leaning on the powers of Egypt. So let's see. So all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am the Lord, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. So Pharaoh is like the reed, and the reed pierces Israel. It's been like a false sense of security, bringing out those idols with him from Egypt. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will bring a sword upon thee, and cut off man and beast out of thee. And the land of Egypt shall be desolate and waste, and they shall know that I am the Lord. Because he hath said, The river is mine, and I have made it. Behold, therefore I am against thee, and against thy rivers, and I will make the land of Egypt utterly waste and desolate, from the tower of Senion even unto the border of Ethiopia. Now, the tower of Eden, of Syene, it's S-Y-E with the accent on it being pronounce the letter E, Sai, and then N-E, N, even unto the border of Ethiopia. Now the tower is Migdol. Now Migdol was back in Exodus, I think chapter 14, verse 2. These are when the children of Israel are coming out of coming out of Egypt. Says, speak unto the children of Israel that they turn and encamp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, over against Baal-zephon, before it shall encamp by the sea. So this is a tower that was there over against the sea where the children of Israel were to camp. That's what he instructed Moses, to have the children camp there. For Pharaoh will say, the children of Israel, they are entangled in the land. The wilderness hath shut them in. Little did Pharaoh know that God was going to shut him in, huh? So then, looking for my place where I left off. So, chapter 29, verse 11. No foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast shall pass through it, neither shall it be inhabited for 40 years. And I will make the land of Egypt desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities among the cities that are laid waste shall be desolate 40 years. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will disperse them through the countries. Yet thus saith the Lord God, at the end of 40 years will I gather the Egyptians from the people whither they were scattered. He's going to draw them all back. And I will bring again the captivity of Egypt. So the captivity, or the captives of Egypt, and will cause them to return into the land of Pathros, into the land of their habitation, where they were originally from, and they shall be there a base kingdom, or a lowly kingdom. And since this occurred, Egypt has never been a country of great power. There'll always be a lowly country. That's just what God said. This is what he did. And so if we keep reading, we'll see where God says that. It shall be the basest of the kingdoms, neither shall it exalt itself any more above the nations. For I will diminish them, that they shall no more rule over the nations. They'll never be in power again. And it shall be no more the confidence of the house of Israel, which bringeth their iniquity to remembrance. Now, how is it going to bring their iniquity to remembrance? Okay, remember, they were captives under the Pharaoh. And Moses went in under God's direction, and God brought them out. But which bringeth their iniquity to remembrance, when they shall look after them, but they shall know that I am the Lord God. So, looking back to their iniquities when they were worshiping false idols, and they brought them out with them. And they shall look after them. So they'll be like, yeah, our idols, we love those idols. And it came to pass in the 7th and 20th year, in the 1st month, In the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to serve a great service against Tyrus, or Tyre. Every head was made bald, like all the hair was gone, and every shoulder was peeled, like the sword had cut them across their shoulders. And yet had he no wages, nor his army, for Tyrus, for the service that he had served against it, because God commanded it, and he made it so. But they weren't rewarded for their service to God, and so now God is going to reward them. And here's what he's going to do. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will give the land of Egypt unto Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and he shall take her multitude, and take her spoil, and take her prey, and it shall be wages for his army. So he's going to get all the riches that Egypt has. He's fixing to lay them out before Nebuchadnezzar. I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor, wherewith he served against it, because they wrought for me, saith the Lord God. Because Nebuchadnezzar fought for God. In that day, at Tyrus, in that day will I cause the horn, or the strength of the house of Israel, to bud forth, and I will bring thee the opening of the mouth in the midst of them, and they shall know that I am the Lord. So remember when Ezekiel couldn't talk and then God opened his mouth? Well, this is he's opening, and I will give thee the opening of the mouth in the midst of them, and they shall know that I am the Lord. He's going to speak to them for the Lord. Chapter 30. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Howl or wail ye, woe worth the day, or woe to the day. For the day is near, even the day of the Lord is near, a cloudy day. It shall be the time of the heathen, or the Gentiles. And the sword shall come upon Egypt, and great pain shall be in Ethiopia, when the slain shall fall in Egypt. And Ethiopia is also, could be Cush, Cush. And shall fall in Egypt, and they shall take away her multitude, or all her wealth, and her foundations shall be broken down. He's going to dismantle Egypt. Ethiopia and Libya and Lydia and all the mingled people and the Chub, Chub, and the men of the land that is in league shall fall with them by the sword. Now these are all the little countries or nations around Egypt, in Egypt, that are like in solidarity or together and backing Egypt. They're going to go down too. So anybody that's tied to Egypt's fixing to get it. Thus saith the Lord, They also that uphold Egypt shall fall, and the pride of her power shall come down. From the tower of Sion, which is Migdol, shall they fall in it by the sword, saith the Lord God. So right where the Israelites camped, when they were exiting Egypt, that's what he's talking about here. And the pride of her power shall come down. From that tower shall they fall in it by the sword. And they shall be desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities shall be in the midst of the cities that are wasted, destroyed. And they shall know that I am the Lord, when I have set a fire in Egypt, and when all her helpers shall be destroyed, all the ones that support her, in that day shall messengers go forth from me in ships to make the careless Ethiopians, the ones that live in security, afraid. And great pain or anguish shall come upon them, as in the day of Egypt, for lo, it cometh. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also make the multitude of Egypt to cease by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar King of Babylon, he and his people with him, the terrible of the nations, or the most terrible, shall be brought to destroy the land, and they shall draw their swords against Egypt, and fill the land with the slain. And I will make the rivers dry, and sell the land into the hand of the wicked, and I will make the land waste or desolate, and all that is therein, by the hand of strangers. I, the Lord, have spoken it. So, you know how God talks about treating strangers in your country? Well, he's going to turn them over to the hand of strangers. They didn't treat Israel so good, and they were strangers in their land, even though they were in bondage. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also destroy the idols, and will cause their images to cease out of Noph, N-O-P-H, and there shall be no more a prince in the land of Egypt. And I will put fear in the land of Egypt, and I will make Pathros desolate, and I will set a fire in Zoan, and will execute judgments in No, N-O. And I will pour my fury upon Sin. Sin is a place, S-I-N, the strength of Egypt. And I will cut off the multitudes of No. Now, if I can see this. In chapter 15, when it says sin, it's the ancient Pelusium. And the pain is anguish. And Noph is Thebes. Thebes. Thebes is the name of that place. And the young men of Avon and Pibeseth shall fall by the sword, and these cities shall go into captivity. At Tehaphnehes also, and that is the ancient Heliopolis, Heliopolis. Also that day shall be darkened, when I shall break the yokes of Egypt, and the pomp of her strength shall cease in her, her pride. As for her, a cloud shall cover her, and her daughters shall go into captivity. Thus will I execute judgment in Egypt, and they shall know that I am the Lord. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 1st month, in the 7th day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and lo, it shall not be bound up to be healed, to put a roller to bind it, to put a splint on it, to make it strong to hold the sword. It'll never hold the sword again. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against Pharaoh king of Egypt, and will break his arms, the strong and that which was broken, and I will cause the sword to fall out of his hand, And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will disperse them through the countries. And I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, that's Nebuchadnezzar, and put my sword in his hand. But I will break Pharaoh's arms, and he shall groan before him with the groanings of a deadly wounded man. He's going to groan before King of Nebuchadnezzar. But I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and the arms of Pharaoh shall fall down, and they shall know that I am the Lord. When I shall put my sword into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall stretch it out upon the land of Egypt. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and disperse them among the countries, and they shall know that I am the Lord. Let's see. I think I'm going to stop there because I'm almost at 30 minutes. And thanks for joining me. It's good to see you again. I love when you leave comments. Lisa McDonald. Anyway, you always make me smile when you leave me a comment, girl. I know you're watching. I know the message is getting to you. And I so appreciate that. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I love you.